Welcome to Politically Incorrect. I'm your host, Thomas Kelsey, where I don't say the things you want to hear, I say the things you need to hear. Today I'm talking about Hurricane Irma, weather modification, and African Americans' clear inability to be prepared for natural disasters. I live in the South. To be more specific, the tropical South, Florida. We all know Florida is known for its sunshine, great weather, and multicultural residents. Another thing Florida is known for? Hurricanes. If you've never dealt with a hurricane like some northern states and some western states, you will be under the assumption that hurricanes are immensely dangerous and violent. Your assumptions are correct. Your assumptions are fact. Hurricanes are extremely dangerous and extremely violent, no matter the category. If you got winds 70 miles per hour, it's always violent. Always violent. So just imagine 100 miles per hour wind, 150 miles per hour winds, the gusts. That is violent because any little thing can be picked up, any sharp object, blunt object can be picked up and hurled your way. It can kill you instantly. So it's no matter the category of a hurricane, they all are extremely violent. The thing about Florida residents, we don't have the same sentiments as northern people who just go off of the assumptions or the news reports that they see on TV. So they're going to be automatically scared. Floridians, man, we ain't scared of no hurricane. We don't have the same sentiments as them. When hurricanes come, we prepare to party. We are jubilant to be off work. We even have a giddy type of excitement about an oncoming hurricane. I mean, it is a real crazy phenomenon. It is very, very, very insane, and that is what we go through, in Florida, so as Floridians, we really need to have the same sentiments of people who never experienced a hurricane. We need to be scared. More than that, we need to be prepared, and that is a problem that I have recognized. Our lack of preparation. Most of us who was raised in the South or have Southern roots had parents and grandparents who respected the weather. If it's lightning and thundering outside, we had to sit in the room and be quiet while God did his work. Let them tell it. That's just what my grandma used to tell me. She's like, go sit down somewhere and be quiet and let God do his work. I heard that so many times. But when it came to hurricanes, these same elders didn't have much respect, as they often chose to wait or sit the sun out, or hunker down, as we like to say it. In Florida, hurricanes have been a part of living forever in Florida. Some people, they crazily like to say, slave spirits from off the coast of Africa form into hurricanes as a means of payback for losing their lives and being enslaved. And they come in to tear up shit. That's what a lot of people say. They like, them slave spirits, that's what them hurricanes come. I mean, and it's an interesting story to kind of like believe, but come on, man, really? Really, people really believe that, And folklore can be entertaining when everyone knows it's folklore. But when people take folklore to be absolutely truth, that's when we have a problem, Houston. No pun intended. Hurricanes' relationship to the Caribbean islands, the Gulf of Mexico, and the eastern seaboard has been documented hundreds of years before slaves were even brought to America. Why would slave spirits conjure from hurricanes and harm mostly people of color, their own people? That doesn't make sense, and people really believe this. Now, if those hurricanes were coming off the coast of Africa and tearing up Europe, I just may honor the belief. However, I don't honor folklore. I do not honor folklore. It's just entertainment to me. Hurricane Irma was a long-standing Category 5 storm. She reached wind gusts of 180 miles per hour. She was a killer storm stretching wider than the state of Florida itself. Irma was extremely dangerous and violent. I monitored the storm for probably 4, 5, 7 days. That's what we do when we're in Florida. When the storm get ready to come, we get excited because we know that we're going to have some time to just chill and hang out or get with friends and party and get drunk and eat good food and watch the storm come out. I don't understand us, but that's how we are, you know. So Hurricane Irma, she was a very, very, very violent storm, and I checked on it. I was on every website that I can find, every reputable website that I can find, you know, looking for the tracks, keeping up with updates and all that. I also monitored the attitudes of Floridians from my social media platforms, from Twitter to Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. And what I noticed was very telling to our inability to be prepared. Yes, we know to buy plenty of food, water, batteries, board the windows up, etc., etc. But we are not prepared. I mean, for the worst. You have to prepare for the worst. You know, 1 week of no power will cripple a lot of people mentally and emotionally. 1 week of not being able to take a shower or getting your favorite takeout or being able to maneuver freely will cripple a lot of people mentally and emotionally. Now imagine if it was 2 weeks or a month. We are not prepared for the worst. And that's not being fair to yourself, my friend. That is not being fair to yourself, because that's not being prepared, and you need to be prepared. Most of us are prepared more for Christmas than we are prepared for hurricane season. And hurricane season is a what? 4 month, 6 month season. Is from June to November, so that's 6 months. Yeah, so we need to be prepared for it, you know. And the reason we aren't prepared is because we have been raised in a passive household towards hurricanes. 1964 was the last direct hit hurricane in my city of Jacksonville, Florida. That was 53 years ago. Everybody aged 53 and under may fall under this passive awareness towards hurricane, because we never really experienced any damage. This Hurricane Irma was probably the most damage that we have experienced in a hurricane in my lifetime, you know. So we have this passive awareness towards hurricanes. We don't really take them seriously. You know, most of us are dependent to our electronics. If you don't have your iPad or your iPhone for over a day, you go crazy. You go absolutely crazy if you can't get on your phone or get on your iPad, and your kids go even crazier than you. At least you know how to pick up a book or read a book or sleep or find other means or whatever. But our kids, the kids are not prepared, and we're not being better examples for them. You know, most of us don't have generators. Yet your biggest complaint, this is the biggest complaint that I've seen over all my social media platforms, is when the lights go off. That is the biggest complaint, is when the lights go off. You need to buy a generator. You need to buy a generator right now. What is wrong with that investment? You know, you can either go buy a $300, $400 brand, or you can go get the standby brand that hooks up to your current electricity, guaranteeing you to never lose lights. That's an investment. That's an investment you would want to have, because it's long standing and it gives you comfort. So you won't have to complain and you won't have to gripe when you're dealing with a storm. You know, most of us, we run to the stove, we go buy cases and cases of water. When the water from the sink at your house flows perfectly, everyone run to the store and they buy cases and cases and cases and cases of water when your sink water is running perfectly. Let me guess. You don't drink tap water. You bougie. You don't drink tap water. You just can't drink tap water. Okay, well, if you don't drink tap water, you need to buy a water filtration system. That's what you need to invest in. You can buy the entire filter for the house, which can be $700 something. Or you can buy one for your kitchen sink, which can be $50. Boom, now you have purified water. Water that's probably is going to be better than the bottled water. Because if you have noticed certain tests of bottled water, the common water that we normally drink, like Dasani and Aquafina and Zephyr Hills, all of them have a worse pH balance than the tap water. So if you get a purification system, your tap water will be better than the water you're buying in the store. Now you're prepared. Most of us are those who buy the same items each hurricane threat. Each hurricane threat, we go and spend the same amount of money. Sometimes we get a little bit overboard because we be scared. You know, we buying the batteries and the flashlights and the ponchos and the rain boots and all this mess we buying. You have to treat hurricanes as a seasonal appearance. When you in Florida, you living in Florida and you trying to make Florida your home, you need to treat hurricanes as something that come every single year, because they come every year. You know what I mean? We might not get the brunt of it. We might not touch it. It might not touch us. It might not pass us. It may go south of us or whatever. But hurricanes are coming each year. You know, you got 6 months of the year that the season goes on. So you need to be ready. You need to treat them like a seasonal appearance. Just like you have that box of Christmas decorations in the attic or in the storage or in your garage, you need a hurricane box or boxes that you can quickly go to and prepare yourself, ultimately saving time and money. But most importantly, you are prepared. See, during this time, you want to be cool, calm, and collected. A lot of people lose their noodles when they get scared. They find out it's a hurricane threat. It might be hitting. It's last minute. You got to do all this last minute stuff, spend all this last minute money, and you scared. You can't even keep your composure. You know what I mean? You have so much anxiety going on. You know, when you prepare, you have none of that going on. You have none of that going on. You're just cool, calm, and collected because you have everything that you need, and you don't have to be one of those people running to the store, running back to the store, or going from this place and that place, going to different sides of town just to get the things that you want or need when you already have them. So you have to treat hurricane season as seasonal. You know what I mean? If you're buying boxes of flashlights, and you're buying batteries and rain boots and ponchos, whatever, you already need to have that stored. You should buy that one time. You should be able to buy that one time, you know, because when that real hurricane threat comes, you want to be able to go into your box and have everything that you need. Your candles, your lighter, your butane fuel, your propane tanks. You need charcoal for your grill just in case you have to cook, a generator, you know, or a standby generator in your house. You need to have these things so you can be prepared. It is the ultimate investment that can last you for 10 years, 15 years, or however long. You know, because we really just experience one major storm in our lifetime, usually. One major storm we usually survive in. And these are just examples. It's just a few examples that can help you greatly. You know, you have to be prepared for these type of instances when they come, so you won't have to be running with your head cut off. You know, you don't want to be one of those people rushing to the store fighting with other people to spend money or burning gas looking for specific items you can't find. You don't want to be one of those people. That's not being prepared. During this time, you want to be cool, calm, and collected. You can think better when you are in a calm state. You can just think better, you can react better, you can move better, you're more relaxed because you're prepared. You know, over the course of the weekend, I saw so much panic and frustration. I mean, people running out of gas. They can't find specific food items. They have cabin fever emotions. And they only been in the house for 2 days. You know, a lack of preparation causes this. You don't want to feel that way, so prepare yourself. Don't be one of those people complaining and griping about something you could have prepared for. In November of last year, I purchased a new home. In March, I purchased a Generac 22,000 watt standby generator to be installed in the home. September, which is now, we didn't experience any discomfort. And my entire neighborhood was without power for at least 12 hours. It was at least, it could have been longer than that because I didn't really know until one of my neighbors came. He was like, hey man, you got power? Because I still see your lights on. And I was like, yeah man, I got a generator in the back. You know, I have a standby generator, and it is hooked up to my electrical system. So when my electrical system cuts off, my generator automatically cuts on. I invested in that. It was pretty pricey, but I knew that I needed it, you know, and I knew that we was going to be expecting some type of storms this year. You know, I knew this year was going to be a bad year with hurricanes due to the solar eclipse anyway, you know. So, and if you're not familiar, the moon controls a lot of the functions on Earth, especially the ocean tide and the way that the oceans and the seas and the rivers coincide with each other. You know, the moon speaks a certain language to crops, plants, wildlife, and also the behavior patterns of humans. The moon has a control of all of this. You know, my grandmama was a backyard gardener. You know, she had a garden in the backyard. She loved planting flowers or whatever, and she used to have me out there. You know, she grew everything from greens to tomatoes, okra, gloxinias to roses. She did all of that, and I was always the one that was next to her because she always made me come out there and do it. And every affluent farmer or person with a green thumb will know a little bit about horticulture and agriculture or whatever. They know that using an almanac when planting crops has a working relationship with the moon. You know, you buy an almanac, and in the almanac it tells you the specific times or specific days of the moon when you need to plant certain items or certain plants or certain crops. You know, you plant certain crops during certain phases of the moon to get great yields or optimum growing performance. This is sometimes this is something that has been in the agricultural field for centuries. The moon is a major influence on weather conditions and the strength that the weather carry. This is where I segue into weather modification. Now, I've seen everywhere on timelines, tweets, blogs, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, and even in regular conversations. You know, but a lot of people are talking about HAARP. And a lot of people are misinformed also. You know, HAARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, and it has been a big conspiracy theorist topic the last few days, mainly because of Hurricane Harvey. I've been speaking about HAARP for at least 10 years. So to hear people speak about it now, it's kind of outdated to me. It's not a conversation I find intriguing anymore because I understand what's going on. And one of the reasons why I don't find it intriguing is, for one, people don't believe it when you tell them about it. Two, they don't even research it if they believe it or not. And three, you know, a lot of people are grossly misinformed about it. So it's not a topic that I really like to talk to because you don't really touch people with it unless it's those same people, they have a little understanding of it also. You know, because skeptics, they like to ask questions and they want you to provide answers. However, with skeptics, your answers would never be enough to convince them, so the entire conversation will most likely be a waste of your time because they don't want to gather such possibility as true. And when a person can't gather something that can be possibly true or don't want to do the proper research, you're just arguing with a person. So it's really no sense to go back and forth with a person that don't believe in what you believe in, and that is totally understandable. But this is part fear and part laziness. You know, I learned a long time ago to dismiss nothing. Absolutely nothing. Don't dismiss nothing, because you might miss something important. Usually being dismissive is intellectual laziness. No matter what a person say, no matter how absurd it may sound, I will always do my research on it, because I don't want to be left out. I don't want to be looking like an ass for not believing this person because I just dismissed them because I didn't understand. You know, that should be something we all should learn. I have reaped several benefits for not being the one to dismiss ideas, beliefs, and thoughts because I just didn't understand or comprehend. I find a way to comprehend so I can hold a better judgment instead of being dismissive and learning absolutely nothing. You know, that is intellectually lazy to me, and I refuse to be that way. Now, weather modification has been used as a weapon for centuries. 1954, the Typhoon Cobra, it decimated a Navy fleet, killing over 800 U.S. soldiers. Rumor has it that Japan detonated a bomb in the ocean in that area to cause a major tidal wave, turning it into a tsunami, which was a form of modification. Now, George Washington escaped defeat from the British by retreating in a dense fog. He used the weather. Now, rumor has it that he ordered his men to light fires to create more smoke to add with the fog, because if he wasn't able to escape, George Washington would have died that day. Seriously. Napoleon Bonaparte, he miscalculated the winter weather and lost a horrible battle. I mean, a horrible battle against Russia. And he had over 600,000 soldiers, and they died dealing with the Russian cold. Doomsday of World War II is infamous for using the weather as a war tactic advantage and using the clear skies in northern France to land paratroopers safely. Now, rumor has it is that they did cloud seeding, which dissipated the clouds so they can be able to have the paratroopers land safely. You know, this is very infamous in Doomsday. The weather was a strategic tactic to use to get into the war and land in France. Now, with that being said, in 1968, it is widely documented that the U.S. military used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. You hear that? In 1968, it is widely documented that the U.S. military used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. You can look this up. It's in black and white in government writing. You can look it up. They telling you specifically that in 1968, the U.S. military used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. This process of what they used was called, like I said before, cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a way of changing the amount of rain that falls from clouds by dispersing substances into the air that serves as cloud condensation or ice nuclei. That's all clouds is. Clouds is precipitation, and they provide, it's nothing but water, and it provides rain when it's ready to drop in the rain or whatever. You know, so that is cloud seeding, you know. But what this process do when they dispersing these substances into the air, it alters the microphysical process within the cloud. You know, because when a cloud forms, it's going to dissipate with rain when it chooses, because it's a process that it is going through. You know, so when they cloud seed, you can speed up the process or you can add more to it. And this can produce 30% to 50% more rainfall than the cloud would have normally produced. Our military has been using this tactic for years. I mean years. Our military has been using this tactic, and they used it in Vietnam to give American troops a needed advantage in defeating the Viet Cong, in which they still lost. After the Vietnam War, there was major complaints to the United Nations about military powerhouse countries like the US, like Russia, like Germany, who preyed on smaller countries by manipulating the weather for a military advantage over that country. On May 18, 1977, those complaints were met at the Geneva Convention, where several countries argued that the weather manipulation was an unfair tactic used by power countries on smaller countries to increase the chances of victory. Weather warfare, weather modification, weather manipulation.
HAARP is a large antenna where we beam radio frequency energy up into the upper atmosphere, and we create on a small scale what the sun normally does. And the reason we're trying to do this is because when you have disturbances in the ionosphere, we can't communicate with our satellites.
HAARP began with a congressional insertion in the appropriations bill of fiscal year 1990. In essence, Congress directed the Defense Department to explore the potential for using the auroral regions for improving communications and navigation and surveillance. From there, the assignment came that the Navy and the Air Force were to manage the program. It is people from those two organizations that have worked together for the past 7 years.
Applications discussed in the patents included destroying missiles. Communications control and disruption were included. There were some other ideas, both to possibly modify weather and finally to lift a portion of the upper atmosphere further out into space, where hopefully it would be able to deflect missile trajectories.
What we do by beaming up radio frequency up into the ionosphere, that radio frequency, when it hits molecules of atmosphere, it tends to make the subatomic particles inside move faster, and that increases their temperature. So you can bring their temperature up to 1600 degrees or so, which is normally what the sun does to those particles at that atmosphere.
The Convention on the Prohibition of Military or any other hostile use of environmental modification techniques prohibits widespread, long-lasting, or severe effects as the means of destruction, damage, or injury to opposing countries who all signed and agreed to the treaty in 1977. The U.S. modified the agreement, and this prohibition went into effect October 5th, 1978. However, this treaty allowed countries with weather modification technology to use the tools against their own countries or countries not signed with the Prohibition Treaty. So in retrospect, the United Nations would turn their head if a certain country used the technology on their own country or another country that is not within the UN, like Haiti, for instance. And you know, Haiti been catching hell with earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, all of that. You know, tornadoes, hurricanes, cyclones, typhoons, tsunamis, they can be modified. And in some cases, they can be created. There is technology to create change in the atmosphere that manipulates the weather. There is technology out here that can do it, and you need to research this and believe in it. Now, why would the government want to control the weather? What's the benefit in that? What are they gaining from this? First, you must know and understand people like the president don't run nothing. They're just a face. They are just the face of a franchise, and America is ran like a corporation amongst many. America was sold to a geokinetic central banking system a long time ago. So why they want this type of control? It's the same reasons why they want to clone animals and humans and plants and food. We have leaders of this world through scientific technology want to feel as if they are God themselves. They want to create and modify everything that God and his universe has already produced. Take a quick listen to this.
A HAARP can create some of the effects that the sun creates that are similar to the aurora borealis.
HAARP can paint designs in the sky, if you will. You know, it can take the beam and move it in any pattern that the scientist who's doing the experiment might want to do.
I heard and read several comments of people saying weather modification is for population control. In the very, very smallest sense, that's true. That's not a good projection of HAARP's intentions. Let's listen to scientists' definitions of what HAARP is benefiting. The average person connects population control with immediate deaths. That's not the oligarchy structure population control. That's not the oligarchy structure of population control. A hurricane credit at the most 100 plus deaths a year, give or take, probably more than that. That's not a dent in population control. However, let's factor tornadoes in the Midwest, rain droughts in the Southwest, earthquakes, thunderstorms, flooding. This controls the overall health of the ecosystem, including human beings. When chemicals are sprayed to modify weather within the air, we eventually consume these toxins in our bodies, our plants, our foods, water, our animals. What is the byproduct of toxins in the human body through food, water, and open exposure? What's the byproduct of it? It's cancers and diseases and other various parasites that is creating a domino effect of health issues and overall health of human beings. This is called slow kill. It's about the amount of people who die globally a year. 55 million people die a year. 131 million people are born a year. The death number and birth rate are all obstacles that the powers that be wants to be controlled. The quicker we die, the better. So you got 131 million births every year, and you have 55 million deaths every year. The powers that be, they want that number to exponentially grow up where it is even to the births. They want the birth rate to go down and the death rate to go up. And if you look at a model of the death rates in the last decade or the last 10 years, you will notice a spike in the death. It's a little by little, but it's a spike in the death rate and a lower drop in the birth rate. It happens slowly but gradually. But you know, when you know throughout history, you know that there is always a major swiping of humanity in the world. This is a reality that's in place. Homosexuality is embraced. That means less births. A lot of men are being incarcerated. That means less men creating babies. You know, the homosexuality agenda and the transgender agenda is pushed so heavily now, and I don't have nothing against it because that's what a person want to choose to be. That's what a person want to choose to be. But it stops the process of another person having a child or creating a child. You know, I know you have introvertilization, and you know, you can go to the sperm bank and have a kid. I understand all of that, you know, but some people don't have the means or the money to do that. So some people just want to, you know, love each other, you know, so that's just the instance on that. But, you know, you have a lot of issues that's going on. You have the chemtrails in the sky, you have sodium fluoride in our water, you have AIDS, you have lethal STDs, you have diseases and vaccines like autism and ADHD, and you have all of these different type of things and these diseases that is happening. And it seems like there's some type of disease that's coming out every single month or every other month. There's something that's coming out that we must be aware aware of. Hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. You know, it's just so many different things that is coming out, and there's never been this many diseases ever. You know, it was people that was living 100, 120, 130 years. That was the average, you know, back 200 years ago. It was the average for a person to live that long. As time has progressed, we have died slowly. We have aged and died young. That's just what life it has been. You know, population control is something that doesn't happen radically. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes generations for it to slow the process of, you know, human creation. You know, we have to understand is that, you know, diseases and everything in vaccines and STDs and AIDS and homosexuality and the pursuit of the LGBT community, you know, all of this is in the agenda, you know, and Planned Parenthood and eugenics. All of this is a planned agenda to halt the birth rate and continue the death rate. You know, you also have genetically modified organisms in our food, GMOs. They're in our beauty products. They're in damn near everything that we use. You know, all of these are slow kill processes that ultimately connects to population control. You know, so HAARP is just a small piece of that. You know what I mean? It's not a major piece, but it is a huge weapon that they can use. So when a hurricane forms out in the coast of Africa, it gives them an opportunity to use their toy. You know, that's all it is. It gives them an opportunity to give that hurricane strength or that tropical storm strength, give it power, maneuver it in the directions that they want it to maneuver to. It becomes a toy. When you are trillionaires, you don't think about money anymore. You think about power. You just want power. And when you have power, the bigger toys that you have. And the toy is HAARP, or going into space, or doing those type of things. You know what I mean? History has shown us that there has always been a complete wipeout of people through savage means. History has always shown this. You know, you can go back from Hitler to Stalin to Mao to Mussolini. You can go back to all of them. You can go to ancient Babylon, to ancient Egypt, you know, even into Africa. It was always major slaughterings. I mean, by the millions. By the millions. Every couple hundred years is always a slaughtering. And you know, we might be coming up on our time. I don't know if it's going to be in America, but it might be a geopolitical agenda. You know what I'm saying? So when tornadoes rock the Midwest and hurricanes and when they flood Florida or Georgia, and Alabama and Texas have rain droughts, or organic farmers' crops die, they lose their crops. You have more angst coming from independent farmers, family-owned farmers now, because they're not able to do their job anymore, what they love, because the weather is acting crazy, or the cloud seeding particles that there are putting in the sky, it is damaging their crops. So when they have damage to their crops because tornadoes coming in and the rain that they're getting is polluting, and they don't have the right pesticides to kill these, you know, then they have to sell their company. And guess who buying all the farms? Companies like Monsanto, a GMO farming company who creates seeds for plants and food, and also toxic pesticides. Not to mention, Monsanto, they just integrated with the Bayer company, one of the top pharmaceutical companies in the world. So what that tells you, what did that tell you? Farming and pharmaceuticals. That's not a good combination to me. You know what I mean? And this is what is happening. It is a broad agenda that you have to really open your eyes to see. You have to understand a lot of levels of control, of oligarchy control. You have to understand that there is levels, and when you understand these levels, you understand how they are continuously having this power and getting powerful as time goes along. You know what I'm saying? So it's not to mention that you can buy stock in the weather. Do you know that? Do you know that that you can buy stock in the weather? It's called weather derivatives. That's what it's called. It's called weather derivatives, and you can look this up. Derivatives is spelled DERIVATIVES. It's called weather derivatives, where you can purchase stock with weather stipulations to it, and they are embedded in contracts in commodity stocks like oranges, wheat, barley, corn. These are commodities that need the weather in order for them to grow. You know, you can safeguard your investments with weather derivatives if such natural catastrophes happen, you know, to halt crops, or they're not able to trade crops at a certain rate because of a weather system that happened or a natural disaster that happened or whatever. You can bet on this to happen and not to happen, and get paid off of this and get profits off of this. So this is another benefit for oligarchs, because if they control the weather, they can control the stocks. So you got to understand that. So you see, weather modification has huge benefits. And for those who fund the research and exhibit the experiments, they are making tons of money. We must understand also these things so we can be prepared. You know what I mean? We just got to be prepared. And these companies, they're making millions of dollars off of it. You know what I mean? You can safeguard your investment with getting weather derivatives. You know what I mean? If these natural catastrophes was to happen and halt your crops, and anytime these natural disasters happen, you have to think that everything inflates. Gas prices go up. Gas prices usually going to go up a week before the catastrophe actually happened. You know what I mean? That's when they get real bold, because they know that you're going to need gas, so they're going to hike the price up quickly before the storm even come, because they're trying to get all of our dollars, you know. So gas prices go high, food prices go high, utilities go high. You know, it's a benefit to the elite to have these powers, and you have to understand this. You know, we must understand these things so we can be prepared. It is essential to be prepared for the worst. And with that being said, we're going to end this episode of Politically Incorrect. I'm your host, Thomas Kelsey. Like us on Facebook at The Black Duval. That's at The Black Duval on Facebook, or you can follow us on YouTube at The Black Duval. You can also find us on SoundCloud, on Google, and on iTunes at Politically Incorrect. Once again, it's Politically Incorrect. Be politically incorrect. Bye.